Hello, hello, and welcome back to Martinis and Bikinis. I am your hostess, Veronica Droulia. Today, my little teenies, I am so excited for you guys to hear this conversation because it is with an incredible human being. Her name is Becca Edmondson. She's a holistic esthetician, Reiki energy healer, sound alchemist, and human design guide. I met Becca through Take Care, which is a day spa in LA. It's one of my favorites. I immediately got off the plane and went there. And I met Becca for the first time, and our energies aligned so well, and I immediately asked her to come on the show. I just think that she's so versatile in her healing modalities, and she's so great at weaving together all the different holistic approaches to nurture overall well-being. So I'm really excited for you guys to listen. We're talking all things clean beauty movement, self-love, holistic living as a whole, mainstream procedures, and how to embrace your natural beauty, and so much more. So, my little teenies, please welcome Becca Edmondson to Martinis and Bikinis. Hello, hello, and welcome to Martinis and Bikinis, the podcast for everything under the sun. I am your hostess, Veronica Droulia, and I am here to help you navigate your 20s through all things lifestyle, beauty, and fashion. So, if you're ready, let's dive into today's episode. Okay, so explain what we have in this smoothie, Becca.
So this is a smoothie that I actually made just for you based on our session the other day. You told me that you had this issue with congestion popping up, but really not something that you dealt with normally. It was really rooted in lifestyle. You had been going to weddings and traveling and in different environments, and we've had a different change in season. So I wanted to create something that could really also support what we did and the aftercare you have at home from the inside out.
Oh my gosh, you are a magician. That's amazing.
So yeah, we just made a little magic in the kitchen.
Wait, I'm like honored. I'm obsessed. So I, for context, went to Take Care the other day for a facial, and Take Care is like a studio? I guess that's the right term.
We always call it a shop. It's a skin studio. We're all holistic estheticians. And so we incorporate our beauty from the inside out, truly.
Yes. I got the Luxe facial, and we did some microcurrent, just like technology on my face, and some detoxing and cleansing, and it was amazing. I actually fell in love with Take Care last year whenever I was in LA, and I had to visit whenever I came back. That was my first stop after I got off the plane, and it was just absolutely wonderful. It's such a safe space, and what you guys have built, like the environment and just the whole vibe, is like so addicting. I am obsessed, and it was actually just voted in Town & Country's list for top places you should visit in LA if you're a wellness snob. So obsessed with that. And Becca, welcome to Martinis and Bikinis.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Cheers.
We'll do a little cheers. So when you sip, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what's in this delicious smoothie. Great for the time of day we're in as well.
Oh my gosh,
so
it's delicious.
The base of this is spinach. And the reason I chose spinach is it's rich in iron, it's rich in vitamin K, vitamin C, but it also has vitamin A. And vitamin A is fantastic if you are dealing with any congestion or acne. It's actually Acne Awareness Month. So I always love to talk about it and make it really timely too. But that vitamin A is going to really support your oil production. So it's kind of like nature's retinol. And then to that, I've also added a cucumber. Cucumbers are about 86% water, so it's going to keep you super hydrated. They are also just so rich in antioxidants, and they're seasonal right now, which is fantastic. With some ginger, great digestive aid, anti-inflammatory. The fruit is pineapple.
Yum.
Love pineapple. It's summertime. It's hydrating. It kind of feels like summer when you drink it. But also when you combine that pineapple with the cucumber, this incredible magic happens.
Yeah.
It creates this digestive aid that just makes everything else you eat throughout the day start working and processing so much easier. And so it really creates that microbiome support that we're looking for when we do have skin congestion.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it has a really cool little enzyme called bromelain. And when you add that pineapple into the smoothie, it kind of just creates a little bit of magic. And then we've got coconut water for a little hydration as well. I always buy the 0 sugar, of course.
I love Harmless Harvest.
That's exactly what's in it.
Oh my gosh.
So who knew?
Who knew? This is Fountain of Youth in a martini glass.
Yeah. And then I added a little avocado. Avocado is
Yum.
also fantastic because it really helps to regulate your blood sugar. You hear a lot of negativity when it comes to smoothies because of sugar levels. So we're really being thoughtful with what we're doing for the skin and also for the rest of the body.
I am obsessed. This was so thoughtful
a little
of you.
hemp seed too on top.
Yes.
Keeping that protein in there as well.
I feel like that's such a good hack to integrate more protein into your diet. Just adding hemp seeds.
Hemp seeds, chia seeds are great for that. Walnuts, which also have tons of antioxidants, are also great. And the nice thing about like a hemp seed or a chia seed, you could just throw it in your salad for the heck of it. I mean, there's not really like a taste. It's just going to give you a little crunch.
Right.
So if you're looking for more protein, it doesn't always have to be meat.
Yeah, sometimes I'll actually put ground hemp seeds on top of my eggs in the morning, which I know sounds weird, but you don't even taste it.
Yeah, I do the same. I put it on my dog's food every day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm that crazy person making their dog food.
No, I feel like that is so needed. They need their protein too.
Well, I can't take care of me and not take care of them.
Yeah.
I can't say don't eat processed food and then feed them processed food, right?
Exactly.
What kind of monster would I be?
Oh my gosh, they're living the life in luxury.
I mean, it's the most LA thing ever. Why not? Lean into it.
The LA dog mom.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I would love for you to tell us more about you.
Yeah.
And I like to start these off with the roots. So feel free to tell us more about your story, your background, how you got to where you are today, all of that juicy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, how long do we have?
Yeah, go as long as you want. I feel like you're such an interesting person. And whenever we were chatting during my facial, I immediately was like, you have to come on the podcast because you are just such a good storyteller and you have so much charisma, like I told you earlier. And yeah, I think this is going to be a great episode.
Thank you. I'm going to text you anytime I'm feeling down about myself and be like, tell me that all over again. I'm from the South, so storytelling is just in my blood for sure. But that was my profession. I was a storyteller. I worked in brand marketing and PR in fashion and beauty for about a decade in New York City. So, you know, it was sort of in my DNA to take in a lot of information and really connect very quickly to what was important to whomever I wanted to share that story with. And that thread has completely been so supportive in everything I have done to create this alchemy of what I'm doing now versus what I was doing then. So I really have to start there because that was, you know, the foundation of understanding the beauty industry, getting really curious about skin, also being part of the clean beauty movement and recognizing all the things that we were putting on our skin, etc. So that was really where it all started. I started taking classes at Equinox, and this was in its heyday, where you would follow the instructor all over New York City. You'd be like at 63rd, and then you'd go down to 19th, or you'd be in Soho, and it was like this really cult community. And I think it was kind of the beginning of creating community through wellness in that massive way. And I had this incredible instructor, Patricia Moreno, who had this awesome workout called Intensati. And it was really interesting because it was movement and choreography based. I danced my entire life. But as you moved, you said positive affirmations out loud. Talk about the weirdest class at first.
Wait, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I had no foundation of spirituality or understanding like the frequency of positivity on the body before then. She also incorporated tapping into her workout.
Whoa, wait, this sounds so right up my alley. My friend told me the other day that she manifests during workouts, and I've started to do that. And I think there's like so much power in harnessing that energy.
Yeah,
so I love that.
You hit the nail on the head. It really, like, I was in New York City working as a publicist, loving what I was doing, but then I was also like exposed to just this conversation and this understanding about energy, and how much power I had over how I felt. And so it wasn't like I was doing anything wrong before. I just didn't have a relationship with my energy. I didn't recognize that all of the experiences I was having throughout the day, positive, negative, somewhere in between, that I could shift those. I didn't have to have like a negative conversation and hold that in. Mm-hmm. I could choose to accept it and say, this is what I'm going to take from it and this is what I'm going to leave. And there were actually things that I could do within my body to move it so it didn't get stuck there, because that's actually like the root of disease, dis-ease, right? That's the root of so much of our inflammation.
Yeah.
And so because of that experience and showing up for that and the community that I met, I mean, some of my closest friends today are still from that group of people. And she actually just passed last year, but her community is still thriving online. But she really did change my life because she changed my way of thinking. And so the idea, and this is like back in 2008 when this started, and I want to say this for everybody out there who is in that entrepreneurial mindset or thinking of making shifts, it took me 10 years to actually do something about it, but it just became this thing that shifted within me.
Yeah, that's incredible. I feel like it takes a very strong person to be able to completely change their normal and go after what they're passionate about. And I think it's just really admirable that you took that jump and you've just been running with it ever since, and you're doing amazing at it.
Well, and just to have a community that's like based in that and those conversations. I mean, New York City has some of the best food, the best bars, the best boys, the best distractions. I mean, you know, here I was in my like early mid-20s being like, no, I'm going to go to this workshop about self-love on Saturday, but you guys enjoy. Like,
right.
It was just such an interesting choice at like the peak of when this started, this kind of revolution or making what we're doing now more mainstream.
I feel so connected to what you just said because I feel like my friend group in New York is very wellness oriented, and I've told you a little bit about it, but a lot of my friends are in functional medicine or they're health coaches or they're going on health journeys of their own.
Yeah.
So whenever we get together, we'll go to like Spring Bone Kitchen and have like bone broth, and it's so funny because I feel like there's such a different side to New York as well, where you are going out and partying and there is that whole scene, and you know, sometimes that's nice to partake in from time to time. But yeah, I feel like I've done a lot of like self-development there, and it's just so funny how there's a scene for that now, because when you watch movies about New York, it's very like in your face, like club, another club.
and like don't get it twisted, like I was definitely in those clubs a little bit. Would never step foot there again. But, you know, it started to create what I think that we all understand as commonplace language now is we really are thriving when we have balance.
For sure.
We can have fun, but we also know how to regulate. We also know how to take care of ourselves. When we wake up and we're feeling that ache, that drain, that discomfort, we can say, I need some me time. I need some stillness. Right? Because that's where we get our answers. That's where we connect to ourselves. And so it really taught me how to be still and how to listen to my body, and connected me to something that I think a lot of us, when we look at most of our mistakes in life or our learning curves, is when we didn't have a connection with our intuition.
For sure.
And that's what like my body did for me. It was like a gateway. I'd already been a dancer. Now I was doing this movement and I was saying these things, and suddenly I could actually change how I felt.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah. And I think that's why I started the show. And I think that's why so many people are curious about the name, because it's called Martinis and Bikinis. And yes, I have on health professionals. I have on people that are in the like holistic world. I also have on people that are just like going through life and want to have a dirty martini. There's sometimes people that have green juice or a green smoothie in a martini. And I think it's kind of the art of balance and figuring out what balance means to you. And it's so individualized based on the person. But I absolutely love our interpretation of balance, because right after I went to a facial with you, we actually met up at a pizza pop-up.
Yep.
And I think it goes hand in hand with nutrition too. You know, I think it's so good to just put good, nutritious food in your body, but then treat yourself. If you're craving the pizza, go get yourself a piece of pizza.
Well, cravings are information.
Right.
Right. And, you know, the thing is that we have to enjoy our life. You know, I mean, not to repeat something that everyone's heard a million times, but that 80-20, 90-10 rule is really supportive. You know, it's like when we talked about what was going on with your skin and traveling, I mean, I immediately connected to, you're like, oh, I've been off a little bit with what I eat, because when I walk into an airport, all I see is a green light for me to get Cheez-Its. I'm like, this is the time. If there was never a better time. It's like that permission slip.
Right.
When we go on vacation, we're going to drink more than we normally do. When a friend's in town, like, and it's, or like that pizza pop-up, you know, this is one of those really cool Instagram things where they don't have a location. When they're going to show up and you can get it by the slice, in your neighborhood you go.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Like, how cool of an experience is that?
Yeah. And it was really good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It
And
looked
I think
amazing.
Your friend met a guy.
Oh, yeah. My friend met a guy. Yeah. My friend got asked out organically in person by a guy at the pizza pop-up.
So see, at the end of the day, it's like, that's worth pizza and a glass of wine.
Yes.
For a date that did not require a swipe. I think win-win for everybody.
I agree. And I had so much fun just seeing the venue and seeing how that all played out. And
well, that goes back to what we were talking about. It's like getting out of your comfort zone. It's okay. You know, a lot of us, and I think that's another thing that tends to happen is in wellness, whether we're talking about skin, whether we're talking about energy, stress, etc. Sometimes we go completely overboard and we are so fearful of abandoning our rituals.
yeah.
And so that is actually elevating our stress. So it's just about incorporating and taking what really works for you and leaving the rest, especially in a time where, my God, there's so much information out there, half of which
is bogus.
No bueno.
Right.
Yeah.
I just remember a time, it was post-college, where I was living in DC and I was cooking every single meal. And I was like isolating myself, first of all. And then second of all, I feel like I was so hyper fixated on everything I was putting into my body. And I look back at pictures of myself and I just see a girl that's really unhappy. And
yeah,
I also, like, not in a vain way, I actually started to see more physical benefits when I stopped caring. And I think that's what's really cool about trusting your intuition.
Yeah.
And I know that we were just having a chat about biohacking, and that's something that's like a big buzzword right now. And there's a lot of information out there about the male perspective when it comes to biohacking. And I actually just read a book about women in biohacking, and that was really interesting. But I know that you were saying that there's certain things that they use verbiage wise, and I guess the facts that they spew are a little unhealthy or toxic. And I would love to get your perspective on that as a whole.
Yeah, you know, I think there's, first of all, the one thing that I will say that's just unfortunate, just in general, when it comes to any trends in health, most of these studies, these hacks, these diets that they are out there really promoting are mostly tested on themselves and men. Our bodies could not be more different. We're talking circadian rhythm, and then we're talking about our cycle related to the moon. I mean, this could not be more different.
Also, I need to fact check myself on this, but I'm pretty sure that women weren't allowed in clinical studies until 1984. And I think that's why there's no information on women's health, because they just haven't been studying it for as long as men.
It's the reason why the perimenopause conversation is just starting.
Yeah.
You know, the bottom line is that that's kind of what part of patriarchy was. It was just to oppress and to kind of take rule. And at the end of the day, there has been no investment financially from a government perspective to test things on women. So we always have to be really careful. I mean, the first, even kind of going back to the career thing, it was like I was still working in in fashion and beauty, but I was also starting to coach people on integrative nutrition on the side. I went to IIN, I studied integrative health. And a big topic of conversation was all these women that had put themselves, for instance, on intermittent fasting. And every single one of us is completely different as humans, whether you are male or female. It's not one size fits all. And many times as a female, if you are intermittent fasting and you are not eating anything until noon, which I think was pretty much the standard, your cortisol is spiking.
Right.
And so for women, it's actually much better to eat within the first 30 minutes of waking, you know? And also we produce estrogen until we go through menopause and produce more testosterone like a man. I mean, that I could recommend that to my mom.
Yeah.
And she might have great results from intermittent fasting.
Right.
But for most women, and we are all different, but for the majority of us, that's not going to achieve the results that you're promised.
Right.
And so that's a really good thing just to think about is like, as a female, is there any quote unquote science or studies that were studied on my gender, on my age group, right?
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing too is, you know, there's just a lot of crazy information out there. You know, anytime someone is telling you to lie, to get a product, to put it in a weird place, when they are saying things like, I think I just used this example, I won't name names, but I was listening to a wellness podcast that I love, cleaning the house, and I just let it automatically play like through the Spotify to the next one. And there was a biohacker that's really well known on, and she suffers from acne. Obviously, as an esthetician and an integrative nutrition expert, I know a lot about acne and its root causes, and some of that is emotional as well as physical, I will say. And as she went through her day and talked about what she was eating 3 servings of beef every single day with some sort of like vegetable, fruit, or like nut healthy fat with it. And his advice was to remove raspberries and almonds, and that would clear her acne. And also never eat kale. So anytime you are sitting there as someone in my profession with my expertise, listening to that and then thinking about the platform that this person has,
Right.
you know, meat, especially beef, is one of the most inflammatory foods you can put in your body. It just it puts so much stress on the body just to process it, break it down, for it to rot and move through the system. And then we've all had like discussions and heard the information about the quality of our meat, especially in America, if it's not grass finished. So that right there was such an obvious thing to say, hey, I get that you're getting high protein, low carb, healthy fats, lots of fruits and vegetables. Let's look at other protein resources.
Right.
So yeah.
If it is grass fed, is it still hard for the body to break down?
So the thing is that one of the reasons you're looking for grass fed is that we don't want those inflammatory properties of like corn and soy. Those are our two largest produced crops in the US. And so when an animal is fed that, we're ingesting that. That's like part of that body, and they're very inflammatory. So when it's grass fed, that means that it's grass fed predominantly, but it might not be through the animal's entire life. So grass finished means that this animal, literally from the time it was born to the time it passed, was fed grass.
It's so interesting because I went to Japan a few years ago, and the way that they treat their livestock is so incredibly different from the way we do it here in the US.
Yeah.
Like they like literally pet them all day and like whisper things in their ear. And I'm like, you know, it's interesting because I heard this a while back, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if the animal passes and was under high stress, maybe it was like a caged environment or something similar, that stress can transfer to our bodies if we ingest it. Is that true?
I believe so. And the reason why is because it kind of goes back to something that we talked about the other day. You know, the one thing that we share is different as we all are. And the most different, I mean, how different is a cow or a pig from me, right? but we are all balls of energy. So, and that goes back to frequency, our ability to manage what we take in, what we let go of, what we hold on to, etc. And so I believe so, because if you are carrying that frequency, that absolutely, we see that stress in our own bodies. We know that stress can kill. And so if something is happening in this high stress environment, that's in their cells.
Yeah.
So, and that's one reason why I will say, and I do eat meat. I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegetarian. I think the only thing that we've really done in this country is like a quantity. We've just demanded so much access and so much quantity. And so if we were to get protein sources from other spaces, we could treat our animals more kindly. We could recognize that they are a life and they're giving their life up for us as these apex predator carnivores, right? And it's part of the reason why a lot of my clients that have noticed, and whether you eat meat or not eat meat, I think that goes back to intuitive eating. It's like, what gives you energy? What sustains you? What's your quality of life? Like, what does your heart tell you, right? Too.
Yeah.
And bison, because of all of the regulations they have on the raising, slaughtering, and feeding of that animal. That's why it's such a healthier choice if you are craving red meat.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, part of the way, gosh, I'm really getting on a soapbox today.
No, I love
But part of the way that we basically stole this land in this country is we killed off and slaughtered bison. So that meant that all of our indigenous people didn't have food sources and had to come to white man for that. And so because of the great bison slaughter, part of the way that we are paying it forward, apologizing.
Absolutely.
Creating retribution is that we have all these regulations about that animal's treatment, how it can be fed and how it can be slaughtered. So it's just a source that we can count on, at least in the US.
Wow.
Other countries also treat their animals completely differently, obviously.
I'm learning so much.
Yeah.
You are just so knowledgeable. This is amazing. But I know that you mentioned that, let's say we're eating really bad quality meat 3 times a day. Our skin is breaking out. There is such a direct correlation with what we put in our bodies and how our skin health appears.
Yes.
And I think that's something that you really integrate into your practice is nutrition.
Yeah.
What are some other triggers food-wise that can lead to just acne, hormonal breakouts, things like that?
Yeah. So, the skin is your largest organ. It's part of our immune system. So the skin really can tell you what's going on in the body. And so usually if someone's coming in when they have acne, whether they've dealt with it their entire lives, or in your case, it was just very much like a temporary lifestyle change, right? Or hormonal around your cycle, we usually are going to look inward, and so anytime if you're eating a lot of meat, again, it's just really hard for the body to process. And so it's creating inflammation. Dairy is really hard for the body. We're the only animal that would eat another animal or drink another animal's milk. And cows are just so different from us. I mean, they have 4 stomachs, girl. I mean, to drink another animal's milk that has 4 stomachs, of course, that's why 97% of people are lactose intolerant.
Right.
So if you're intolerant of something, if your body doesn't recognize it, know how to process it, that starts the inflammatory response. And, some people can do great with goat or sheep because their systems are much more regular if you still want it in small quantities. Or as a good protein source.
Such a feta girl.
Girl, get that sheep's feta.
I know, that's what I do.
That sheep feta is good, and all the goat products I love. If you're like a tangy Greek yogurt gal, try goat yogurt, try goat kefir, goat cheeses. They're also a really great alternative if you're looking for some non-meat protein sources.
Yeah.
Or you just like a nice cheese board in the summer.
Yes. A little charcuterie action.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, alcohol, obviously.
Yeah.
That's inflammatory. And then of course there's stressors that are anytime we open up a box or a package and eat food, there are preservatives in those food. Anything out of a package is going to cause some low level inflammation, some better than others. Like those Cheez-Its are going to hit me very, very differently than if I choose like a Simple Mills almond flour cracker.
Right.
You know, we have to live our lives. And so if you need a couple things on hand, there's better choices than others.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, it's like really interesting because I love Simple Mills and it is a healthier alternative. But yeah, anything that's in a package like does have like some sort of processed ingredient. Is that correct?
And a lot of times the processed ingredient that gives you that inflammation, you'll start to see if you just start looking on the back of any of your labels, you'll see things like seed oils.
Right.
Sunflower oil, grapeseed oil, corn oil, palm oil.
Natural flavors.
Try to find a plantain chip without palm oil in it. Just try. It's so hard to do so. And so that is what is giving you that inflammatory response. And yeah, I mean, deeper, like yellow number 5, the body is not like, yo, I know what to do with that.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go, yellow number 5. Join orange 8 while you're at it.
All the rainbow.
Yeah.
All of the rainbow.
So you want to get the rainbow from the vegetables, not necessarily the Skittles, you know?
Right.
So.
Well, I feel like everybody's really on this like carnivore raw milk thing. What's your opinion on that?
Again, you know, I think, the milk conversation is crazy because then you also look at the evolution of these like nut milks and seed milks, right? But they're also packaged and they've got fillers too. They've got oils in them. They've got gums in them. So, you know, I would say if you are making that choice, again, it's going back to let's all just demand better from what we are able to buy. Mm-hmm. But I'm much more of a proponent, especially with inflation the way that it is. I would 100% just choose a source. Like you can make your own almond milk and your own oat milk.
Oh yeah.
Really easily. You don't even need a nut bag or anything crazy. You know, that raw milk from that cow that hasn't gone through that entire process might be healthier for you in the moment, but you're still eating cow's milk.
Yeah.
You're still digesting cow's milk. Your body is still going to have a hard time with that, even if it's raw.
Right. Well, I love that you integrate this into your practice.
Yeah.
And you also integrate some very unique just modalities of your services. And one in particular that I'm just super curious about is your Reiki facials. Mm-hmm. Walk us through what that looks like and like how that heals the mind, body, soul, skin, all the things.
Yeah. So, you know, I think that that's really, first of all, that's my mission, you know, Abundantly Be, which has been my practice for so many years. I mean, that's where the health coaching, you know, the retreats have come from, the human design guidance, the Reiki sessions, and now adding the esthetician work. It really is about healing all the stories that the body's holding. So it really is about that frequency regulation. And the very cool thing about the way that I utilize Reiki in my facials is you've also had microcurrent. That's putting a current into the face.
Pilates for your face. That's what I called it.
I love that. Pilates for your face. Mm. You know, everything that we're doing is really about shifting that frequency.
Right.
If you think about in your life, how many times have you gone to do something for yourself, gone to yoga, gone to a meditation, come to get a facial, but you've got things going on in your life and you just are constantly fighting your mind's ability to relax the entire time.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be able to create a space for people that needed more than just a cleanse, more than just extractions, more than just like, this is part of my beauty regimen, but people that are really looking for a space to disconnect so they can reconnect.
I love that. I did Reiki for the first time a few years ago. And I've had some crazy experiences. Mm-hmm. I one time was at this retreat and it was called Savannah in Arizona.
I've heard of it. I haven't been.
They have like one of the top spas in the world. And every day I got a free service. So I decided to do Reiki one day. And it was really crazy because she got to like my sacrum and my root chakras. And I just started like bawling, crying.
Yeah.
It was like a super transformative experience. And then afterwards, she was like, this is kind of wild, but like this song in particular kept coming up for me. And the songs that she was sharing with me were songs that me and my grandmother used to play with my mom on piano, like, and all sing together. And at the time I was like really struggling with my like romantic relationships. And during that session, I had this overwhelming feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm meant to be with somebody that I was really close to my grandmother, that my grandmother would approve of. And I never thought about it that way. And then whenever she told me that, I just had this like crazy meltdown. I was like, oh my God, like this is absolutely nuts that this is how this transpired. And I think that there's like so much power in healing and in energy. And I think that you can really connect on such a deep level during a service like that.
Yeah. And that's so beautiful. And that's what Reiki really opens up for you. We're all familiar with chakras if we've taken a yoga class. Your chakras are the energy centers in your body. They run from the base of your spine, your root, all the way up to the top of your head. And these centers of energy, as we go through life, we wake up, we get into traffic, we're multitasking, we forget something, like we have these little or then we get into a car accident, like major stressor. That energy gets disrupted, right? And all of these little, like kind of like little t, big T traumas that we have get sort of stuck in the body. And the body is just holding on to all of this energy of all of these like high, like fight or flight moments.
Right.
And so one of the easiest ways to feel like ourselves again, to create that space and silence and that aha moment that you had about this relationship that you were struggling with, is to create space to move that energy and to regulate and open it up and clear it. And so that's what we're doing. As a Reiki practitioner, we are working with the collective energy. We are working with your guides, your angels, your ancestors that are healed and are here like all the time, whether you see them or not, working with you. And it creates this portal for them to come through and for either myself or you to receive that message.
Right. I feel like a lot of people hear it and they're like, oh, this is so woo-woo.
Yeah.
But I think it's until you experience it that you realize the truth in it.
Yeah.
And
that's actually why I started doing it. I mean, it always is going to take us 2 hours to get back to the point of a story, I'm pretty sure.
No, it's okay.
But, part of the reason when I did make the career shift, and part of the reason why I started practicing Reiki, part of the reason I started playing sound and doing sound baths and working with like the alchemy of that, and also studying and starting the human design readings, was because these were things I experienced that completely changed me. And so the first time I ever had a Reiki healing was in one of the most difficult times in my life. And it was the only place that I could create space where I didn't have to say anything, but I could feel completely different.
Yeah. I also think there's so much power in doing things that heal you and like feeling like you've experienced all of that trial and tribulation and find so much comfort in those things. And then you're able to share that passion with other people because you've been through it.
Yeah.
And I think that makes like the best practitioners is people who have like truly struggled and came out on the other side even better because of the practices that they instilled into their life.
Well, and that's the other part of it that we haven't talked about. I mean, we've a little bit danced around it, but if I see someone who has, for instance, been struggling with acne consistently, then there is a trauma in that body that is deep rooted.
Right.
And so I can treat it topically. I can use incredible devices that help reduce inflammation, drain the lymphatic system, remove the toxins like the microcurrent. But really getting to the root cause and emotionally recognizing that and starting to heal it is the most powerful thing that I can support and facilitate to heal that for someone.
Right.
And sometimes it's something that we're not even conscientious that it impacted us that much, or we were at an age where we can't even make that connection. Or in my belief system, we came right here into this planet from another life with it to get real woo on you.
Yeah.
So I feel like, the facial just made so much sense. I was in this serene private space. I was naturally an esthetician, just like a hairstylist who somehow became everyone's therapist when I wanted to talk about skin.
Yes.
And there's these natural moments, when you're putting on a mask or you're putting someone under LED light therapy, where it's really good to be there for 10, 15, 20 minutes. So if that's what my client needed, was some energy clearing, some connection to herself, to her ancestors, to the root causation of where her frequency was being disrupted, that why not offer and create that space for healing during that time?
Right.
And then you add something like microcurrent to it, which is literally shifting your frequency. It's changing the communication between your cells, which is what creates that amazing lift. You really do have a full frequency shift and feel like a different person from when you laid down and when you leave.
For sure. And that's how I felt.
Yeah.
I had just gotten off of a really long flight. I was exhausted. I even told you whenever I walked in, I am a mess right now.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. My brain isn't really working.
Yeah.
And then we had such a beautiful conversation, and I left like energized and ready to take on the day. And I also felt like I had accomplished something. I felt like I had celebrated myself and did something nice for myself. And that was all because of you. And during our conversation, we were talking about human design as well, and how that kind of just plays a role in all of our lives. And I know that that's something you're an expert in. So I'd love for you to get into that a little bit, because I think that that is such an interesting subject. And for me, I'm a generator, and I keep telling you that it's boring because everybody's a generator. But then you told me something really interesting about it.
Yeah.
And I think that there's like a lot of cool fun facts and just different ways that you can kind of like function throughout your life based on what your human design is, and using it as a source of power.
It's such a source of power. And that's how I felt the first time I ever had a human design reading. It really is the science of yourself, and it gives you personal freedom. It gives you permission to be your most authentic self, because it is your energetic blueprint. And so when we study human design, what we recognize is that we all have roles to play. We all have an energy that we were born with. We all have a way that we're meant to weave through this world. There's energy that we can consistently tap into, that we're constantly impacting others with. And then there's like open areas where we're being impacted as well. And so once you understand how the energy flows within your body, it actually gives you information on how to make decisions. It gives you information about a career path and like how to navigate those relationships. It can give you information about who to date. It gives you great information about your health and well-being, even how to eat. So I think that one of the best ways to relate human design is to something that I think a lot of people relate to already, which is their interest in astrology, right? So if you understand that you are a Pisces, an Aries, a Gemini, there's certain like personality traits associated with it. But part of the reason that's true is because when you were born, the position of the planets and the energy those planets contain kind of create those personality traits.
Yeah.
Create that energy. And so human design really is your energetic blueprint. It's when you were born, when your soul met your body, and it's the position also of the sun and the earth and its relationship to it. It's a mix of 5 different sciences, including quantum physics, the Kabbalah system, talking about your karma for life. Wow. So it can be really complicated, which is why I think so many people benefit from readings versus just trying to figure it out for yourself. But the principle of it is, if we all understood our own energy and how it flows through our body based on how we are impacted at birth and how we carry ourselves, then we would have permission to be our most authentic self. So similar to astrology, where we have like fire signs, earth signs, water signs, the first 2 entryways to human design are your energy and your type, right?
Yeah.
So we have generators, manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors. So our generators, which you are the most common. They make up a huge component of the planet.
It's like 80%, right?
Yeah. So basically it's more like 70, but the generators are people that have this really juicy magnetic energy.
Ooh.
You can accomplish a lot. You can do lots of things. The founder who had the download of human design actually said that generators were the luckiest because you can sit on your couch and invitations to do and be involved in all these things will naturally come to you because your aura is just so bright and so big. And you can do so many things like the Energizer Bunny. That's the great thing about being a generator. The only thing about being a generator is that so much of your relationship to productivity is also impacted by the energies of others. So it's like you get so much like praise of like, oh my God, she saved the day. She's so amazing. She's an expert at this. Call her. And it feels so good to be loved for what you can do, for what you can produce, that sometimes we can lead into like people pleasing.
Yeah.
We're doing things because we are good at it. Our ego is like, hell yeah, I can do that. And it makes someone feel so great. And so it's really up to the generators out there to recognize that their juicy vibrancy is really going to expand and you're going to be in your happiest, your most satisfied, bright light, life self. That made no sense, but it's all good. When you are saying yes to the things that truly light you up. And you'll probably start to see that there's a pattern of like, this is what I'm great at. And the only things that I participate in are things that are versions of this.
Yeah. Well, for those of you that know me and have been listening to this show for a while, I think that just proves more than words that this is very much real because I feel seen. But yeah, I think it's really interesting, human design. And I'm glad that we touched on that because there's just like so much within that scope and world that
the way to like lean into like the how of that is then to get into like we talked about like your energy, right? Mm-hmm. Like your energy, we all have these like 5 types that I named, but then there's also the authority. So what's the authority of that energy? Mm-hmm. So for instance, if you are someone who has a sacral authority, the sacral is a chakra, right? We talked about the chakra system. That sacral authority is your gut, is your instinct, right? It's very carnal, the sacral. It's where our reproductive organs are. It's where our sex organs are. It's where our desire system really lies. Yeah. And so if you have an opportunity that comes your way, if you take a moment as someone who has a sacral authority to pause and allow your body to respond. The body needs to respond to something as a sacral authority. You'll actually have a physical tell. I'm a man gen, so I have part generator, part manifester. I actually dig my nails into my palms and make like marks when I get really excited about something. It's this natural thing, and then I know to follow it.
Wow,
right?
That's interesting.
So, and then if you're someone, I mean, we all have different ways that this is expressed. If you had an emotional authority, for instance, that means that you need to be in a neutral place to say yes or no to something and feel more confident that it's going to be living in your most aligned magnetic self. So just making sure that you're not saying yeses to things when you're like on a high or a low. So if I'm having a great day, let's say I just got a job, unexpected money came in, like Brad Pitt told me he liked my pants at Air One, whatever. And someone calls me and they want me to do something and it sounds amazing. And they're like, yeah, but we don't have a budget and it's free. And I know I've got all these things going on at the time because I've just met Brad Pitt at Air One. I'm going to say yes to that.
Right.
And then especially if you are a generator, you also need to finish something like A to Z. You're going to begrudgingly do that project and you're not going to like let it go.
Right.
So it's recognizing like I'm on my Brad Pitt high. I should probably take a beat and get right back to you.
Yeah.
So starting to give yourself permission to not answer in the moment can be really, really supportive.
Yeah. I think that's like a really good piece of advice.
Yeah. Just in general for anyone.
Yeah, just in general, because there's so many things that I've just like, I guess from a people pleasing mindset, I've just said yes to on the spot. And then later on, I'm like regretting it. And I'm like just a little resentful. And
even like brunch. You're like, I said yes to brunch on Tuesday. Here I am Saturday morning, and this is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
At all.
I've started to like really just take time to respond to text as well.
Yeah.
Asking to do something, or if I can help with something, just to like make sure that I'm first managing my time well.
Yeah.
And second, that I'm going to be able to show up as my best self, and I can really make the time for it. And it's going to like be a good thing for me energetically. And I think, yeah, just like being really intentional about like the way that you're spending your time is important.
And recognizing that your energy is in flow and it's consistently fluctuating based on what's going on, right? And so I think a really good practice, just create a note you can copy paste that says, thank you so much for the invitation, or thank you for thinking of me. I'll get back to you.
That's a good tip.
Or is it okay if I get back to you closer or on Friday?
Right.
Just so that you can then decide, like, what does my weekend look like, you know? And I think as New Yorkers, like I was in New York for 11 years, you know, even if you're not a generator, that city, by the way, has its own energy.
Right.
And so it's so much a space of like productivity is king.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you think about all the things that you would do in the day. And it's like, we do need time and space to rest, to reclaim ourselves, and to like rebuild our energy. Otherwise, what ends up happening to our wonderful generators is we get burnout.
Yeah.
You get completely burnt out. And you know that. If you're not living in alignment, you're saying yes to things that are not fulfilling you and are frustrating you. You haven't made that space before you made the decision, and you're going to put yourself into burnout. You're going to have that thing where you turn your phone off, close the door, the shades, and don't emerge for 48 hours.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, yeah, I think there's definitely such an energy to New York City.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're taking time for yourself is so essential. And I even tell people, like, they're like, do you like New York? And I'm like, yes, but I have to leave sometimes. Like, I have to recharge. I have to ground. And whether that's going back home, seeing my family, or coming to LA for a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I feel like some people can also feel like a little less grounded here. But I think that there's like so much nature and the water and the ocean. And it's like, this is a good grounding place as well. But
I think it's where you find community. You know?
sure.
And where also you express different sides of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, when I came to New York City, and I give New York City a ton of credit for making me as strong as I am and as capable, it's not really easy to like be in your mid to late 30s and be making like a 6-figure salary and live in this like beautiful apartment, and then be like, you know what, I'm just gonna like be a health coach. That'll be funsies. You know? Like, but that's what
Let's just see what happens.
Let's just like see what happens. I mean, who needs those degrees we were talking about? Like, we're good. Yeah.
Throw it all out the window.
Yeah, but you need that space,
for sure,
right? To be, so it's like that really served me for a long time. And it was like, I was someone that already had a lot of energy, already was like really productive. And I was like, look at all these things I could do. And then at some point I was like, no, when I launch this and when I shift this, I need to be in a place that is actually slower so that I can create more space and not get caught up in it. Mm-hmm. So it was like really beautiful with like building my career and finding my community and kind of creating the foundation of who I am as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a holistic esthetician and healer. But now I'm in a space that is a little bit more grounding. And I live on the West Side. I live by the beach. You know, I did that for a reason. You know, I want that grounding. I want that slowness. I like that ease that we have on the West Coast.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, speaking of Brad Pitt, we were chatting about how so many celebrities, including men, are starting to get more procedures.
Yeah.
And I'd love just your whole take on that and the anti-aging I feel like that's such a buzzword, right?
Yeah.
Every single product is now marketed as anti-aging, and it has this negative connotation. So what's your opinion on that? And what are some brands that you think are really amazing and, you know, spreading a positive message and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we are in a time right now that obviously technology, whether it comes to the products we're putting on our face, the devices, or the more invasive procedures like Botox fillers, or we're seeing this facelift happening much earlier. And absolutely, you know, we were talking about Brad, he's had a facelift. Bradley Cooper's had a facelift.
Which I was shook about.
Yeah. You know, and it's like, the reality is we do live in a space and time where we are really, really focused on not aging or aging gracefully. And I like aging gracefully. I think there's so much power in really taking care of yourself because the root of skincare is really skin health. What I love that's happening right now is that for those of us that are elder millennials, Gen Xers, it was like be in the sun from 11 to 5. It was all about like really harsh, abrasive, like treat it later, but don't heal it from the root Stridex pods like generation, right? So I really love the emerging generation, our Zillennials as you are, or Gen Z, that are growing up in a time and they are wanting to take care of their skin. The difference is I don't want it to be so I can look like this person or look like society's current view of what beauty is. Because I can tell you that's going to change completely. So if you are doing these like really invasive procedures, like fillers, for instance, to look a certain way, that beauty is going to change. How is that going to affect you? Right? And it's the same thing with like a lot of actives or just generally, by the way, just taking your beauty into your own hands from what you've heard from TikTok or Instagram.
Right.
What I would love to see from this younger generation that is taking over the workforce, is going to start to have kids, etc., is to understand that like skin is part of our healthcare and our hygiene. So I want the kids of this generation to grow up cleansing their skin before they go to bed, right? Using sunscreen, and a really good quality sunscreen that's not filled with parabens and chemicals and toxins that are not only making us sick, but also making our waters and our oceans and our animals and our planet sick. You know, that's what I hope this emerging like drunk elephant generation that's going to Sephora at 13 and asking for hyaluronic acid.
Right.
That's where I hope we're going to get. But I do think that we need a lot more education around it. Realistically, you know, up until your 20s, it's really about cleansing the skin and protecting the skin. You know, you've got so much energy in your cells. They naturally turn over very quickly. You have this natural cell turnover, this natural exfoliation. You produce your own hyaluronic acid. That's why your skin is so plump and moist. I mean, you are still making expression lines. You're in polluted environments. You're in the sun, etc. We just don't see it because the energy of the skin at that time is just functioning really, really well. What happens is once we hit about 25 to 30, that's when we start to see a change because that ATP, that energy of our cells, starts to slow down and our cell communication starts to change. So we're not getting those little messages like, hey, I need some new cells. And when we're not producing new cells as frequently, then we're not producing that collagen, we're not producing that elastin. And so we start to see little fine lines, right? We start to see the sun damage that we have created because maybe we put sunscreen on, but we never reapplied it, right? And so, and then, you know, we also start to lose our elasticity, and that continues throughout our lives. So if you correlate your age, like when you're 30, you're getting like your cells are turning over about every 30 days. When you're 35, every 35. When you're 40, every 40. When you're 50, and so on and so on. And so all of the products that we're using and the treatments that we're doing in the treatment room are really to support all of the situations that occur when that cell production slows down.
Right.
And so realistically, what I hope is I do hope that skin health becomes part of hygiene, that this generation starts educating their kids, starts using better cleaning products, better products on the skin for their kids, better sunscreen, etc. I hope they're reapplying sunscreen on everybody every 2 hours and making it such a big deal. Skin is the biggest ager, by the way. So if you're in the sun, that's immediately going to add 10 years to you later.
Yeah.
I promise.
I also think people forget that their hands are one of the first things that age, along with your neck and like the décolletage area. So like making sure that you're showing love to those areas as well.
Yeah, even in the treatment room, oftentimes when I'm doing like a mask or something like really deeply hydrating or whatnot, I'm gonna treat the décolleté as well as the hands for sure. But then so when you're in your 20s, you know, and I mean this is different. If you are somebody that has struggled with acne or congestion, you probably are seeing a dermatologist or an esthetician much earlier in life. But most people usually don't come to us until they're sort of like mid to late 20s. That's when we're like, whoa, the light in my eyes has gone darker.
Oh my goodness.
Right? And that's when you want to just start adding a few things, you know, adding a vitamin C serum because it's rich in antioxidants. It helps to produce that collagen. It creates that brightness that we've sort of lost. We're adding that as a serum. Again, our hyaluronic acid production is stopped, and so we need that moisture. Most serums have some form of hyaluronic acid in them. And then something that we can also start adding into our routine at night is a retinol.
Right.
Retinol, vitamin A derivative. I think it's a language we all speak. It's retin A, it's tretinoin, etc. But now we have over-the-counter retinols that are much more gentle, encapsulated, that we can utilize in our routine to start that cell turnover too. And it's also great if you do have acne, which is really nice.
Yeah. So what are some brands that you can recommend for sunscreen, vitamin C, retinols? I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So again, the one thing I would recommend anytime you're changing your products or just in products in general, even if you're someone who is that person that's like, I'm going to start taking care of my skin this year, go book a facial, you know, whether it's with me if you live in LA, but just go find a reputable esthetician and get a cleanse and get your product recommendations there so they can really specify it for you. And when it comes to sunscreen, I really love, for just a general sunscreen, I think the best on the market are really the baby sunscreens now. There's one that I really love that I used to get on their website. They're now sold through Amazon. It's called Pipette. It's a beautiful mineral sunscreen, but it doesn't give you that chalky white feeling. It actually gives you like a really nice glow. It's SPF 50 if you're just looking for a general sunscreen. They now also have a body spray for when you're going to the beach.
Nice.
Of course, all the Sunbum products are reef and coral safe, which I really love.
That's what I use.
Good for you, girl.
Thanks.
If you are looking for one that has a little bit of tint and a little SPF, I am obsessed. I've gotten everyone on this. There's a brand called Audacité. You can find it online on their website, Detox Market, Credo. A lot of the like clean markets have it. They are tinted SPF mineral drops. They're SPF 50, and they've got green tea and niacinamide in it as well. So that's great for inflammation, and it gives you the dewiest glow. It's what I have on. It's what I wear every day. I love it. That's a really good one. Also, Color Correctives has a really nice line for lots of different skin types, as deep or as light as your skin is. So those are really great ones.
Yeah. Well, this is amazing.
You know,
I would love to hear like a breakdown. Let's say I went in to get a facial last week, and I told you that I actually wasn't washing my face in the morning because I had been sold basically this information on TikTok about how you don't need to cleanse your face in the morning. And I was just double cleansing at night. And you gave me a really good breakdown of what I should be doing as a 27-year-old in the mornings. I'd love for you to kind of just walk us through what a typical routine should look like. Obviously, certain people have to cater to certain needs, but I feel like maybe like a general idea of like how we should be constructing our routines. Maybe it's somebody that is trying to get into skincare for the first time. I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah. And I think the beautiful thing about skincare is it's so similar to fashion, which I think everybody at 27, whether they've taken care of their skin or not, can relate to. You do have those high-low items, right? Like a really nice pair of jeans, but that top can come from the thrift store, right? So when it comes to skincare, the first thing that I will say is that that did come from TikTok. There was a pretty well-known influencer, and basically the principle was the skincare that you put on at night is so luxurious and precious. Why would you wash that off in the morning? And in general, you just have to remember, first and foremost, your skin absorbs your products in 4 to 6 hours. So whatever you put on at night, like if you go and invest in something after this conversation, don't feel like you're washing it off. That's just not true. And second, when you are sleeping, your pillow has a lot of bacteria. Unless you're changing it every single day or your sheets every single day, you've got dead skin cells, dust mites, saliva from drooling. I sleep with my dog. I can't tell you what my partner did today. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know where he's been. Right? I don't want that on my face in the morning.
I don't blame you.
You know? So to say that your skin is clean, I'm just going to let these products do their thing is insane. So we want to wake up and we want to cleanse our face. We want to cleanse our face. We don't have to do a double cleanse in the morning. In the morning, we can do something really simple. What I recommend, especially your age, I would literally go get a micellar water.
Yeah.
Super gentle, very affordable.
I love the Bioderma.
The Bioderma is great.
That changed my skin.
Yeah. It's and the great thing is this is so accessible. You can find that at Target. You can find it at Sephora, CVS, I think Ulta. So
Amazon.
Everywhere. So 100%, let's get whatever he was into last night off the face, like immediately in the morning. So I love a micellar water for something like that. Or, you know, your gentle cleanser that you have. After that, you want to tone the skin. Your toner might depend on the skin type. And so definitely your esthetician kind of recommend what that looks like. It's just creating balance between how acidic or how alkaline the skin is. And then you want to think about some sort of antioxidant, right? Because we've all heard of free radicals, right? This oxidation that happens to the skin. And so we want something to address that, especially when we're going to go expose ourselves like to the environment. We're going to start eating food, all of that, which creates these free radicals. And so a typical antioxidant serum would be a vitamin C. Sometimes it's a CE, just depending on what's for you.
Right.
Following that, that's when I just get into your moisturizer, tinted moisturizer, whichever one you want to use. So all we've really done is we've cleansed the skin, we've toned the skin, we put on an antioxidant to support that collagen production, to fight free radicals, and then we have put on a moisturizing element and an SPF, or we could do it in both with a tinted moisturizer.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you got to do every morning. It should not take more than 5 minutes.
Right.
And then the only thing I will say is don't forget, like if you're using a tinted SPF as like a makeup is meant to be reapplied. Bring your bag with you. We don't put it on for the day and say we're protected, right?
Yeah.
So bring it with you. Allow yourself to like reapply and touch up so you're not getting that exposure.
Mm-hmm. I know that there's some setting sprays out there that have SPF in it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's genius.
Genius. You could absolutely do that. And the same thing you'll see with like the little powders too, if you tend to like produce oil, which is really great.
Supergoop has that. I think.
Supergoop has that. So yeah, that's really it during the day. And then at night when you get home, this is when you do want to do your double cleanse. So usually a double cleanse is going to involve some sort of like oil-based cleanser. And we're just using that oil, not necessarily as a moisturizing ingredient, but as a really good makeup remover because we want to get off makeup. We want to get off sunscreen, anything environmental we've picked up, etc. And then we're going to follow with our regular cleanser. You could do it in the shower if you want. You can do it, in the sink. And then after you do that double cleanse, then you're going to get into the resurfacing portion of your night. That's when we want to have our magic. So if you're someone that is on a retinol, I love at 27 for a retinol, I would choose something that's encapsulated, which means that it's slow releasing in your body. It's going to be way less stripping to the skin. It's going to create much more balance. And when you start on an over-the-counter retinol, just use it once every like 3-4 nights. So maybe twice a week to begin, even once a week to start, and see how the skin does. Because sometimes we see the difference in dryness to oil because we've overused that, and then we're creating another problem. So then you would put on your retinol if you're using it that night. And then some sort of just like evening moisturizer and eye cream. Never forget, your eye skin's so different than your face skin.
Right.
It's so like, you know, gentle. Audacity really also has a really beautiful eye cream that I love. The Shani Darden eye cream at Sephora is amazing because you can use it on your lids and underneath. So if you're someone who gets like, some people have dark eyelids as well as dark under eyes. Love, love, love that one. She also has a great retinol. The retinol reform is incredible.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's like a really good product recommendation.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard of that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But this was so fun.
Yeah.
I feel like we could literally talk for...
We could talk for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah. And I like wish we could. You'll have to come back on next time I'm in LA or
We'll
when you're in New York.
Yes. When I come to New York, I weirdly have been talked into TikTok to taking a trip to New York to have a pet portrait done.
Okay. So you're doing it.
There's like some weird back alley, like behind like some restaurant shopping mall place where this incredibly talented person does pet portraits.
You're joking.
So yeah, so I'm so passionate about animals. You know, I foster.
Yes.
I'm like, by the way, please adopt. Don't buy. But yeah, so I booked it. I'm like, I'm going to New York because my dog that passed, I need a pet portrait. I never had one when she was alive. Why not go to New York for that?
Absolutely. That's going to be such a great way to pay tribute.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, we'll have to get together then.
Of course. And as a bi-coastal person, you also might be someone that needs like a little bit of a different regimen when you're in New York versus when you're in LA.
That is such an interesting thing to say because everybody talks about how New York has the best water, and I really want to get into like water filtration, even though I guess it is more quality in New York, because I do find that I don't break out as much whenever I'm actually there and I'm home. But I have a lot of friends that have jumped on that wagon. So
I mean, last really great tip, I would say, I know we're wrapping things up, but I would definitely say if you're someone that is experiencing a change in your skin or you've got congestion or acne, 1000% get a filter on the water where you are in the shower and then where you wash your face.
yeah.
I love Filter Baby, but everybody's sinks are different, so it's hard to say which one.
Right.
And that's the second thing too. I mean, there are really smart water filtration systems that you can buy that actually filter the water based on your location.
Whoa.
Where you're living, the toxins that are in your water.
Oh my gosh. How do you figure that out?
I will tell you, I have so many saved.
We'll put it in the show notes.
We'll put it in the show notes. I've saved so many because I'm on a water filtration kick. So I would say if you are filtering your water in the shower, filtering it in the sink, and then you're also drinking better water, that's 100% going to help your skin. Most of your toxic load is from your water, from the earth. So make sure you're washing all of your vegetables and things like that, and from our environment too. And then even going back to the bedsheet conversation, you don't have to change your sheets every day, but you could change your pillowcase.
Absolutely.
Change it every single day.
Absolutely.
Your skin is going to get so much better.
Yeah, just buy a bunch of pillowcases.
Yeah, and when you're dry, like when you come to a place like LA, put a humidifier on.
Right. Yeah. And I know a lot of people are into like air filtration right now too.
Yeah, there's a really cool product on the market now that uses UV light. You leave it in your space for 15 minutes and you come back and like everything is killed. Like it's just a clean environment. It's great if you have pets. Great if you live in a toxic environment like LA where we have so much pollution and smog. It's called the Uvalizer.
That has been my most commonly used word this episode is whoa.
Whoa.
I've learned so much from you. This is
I love
amazing.
the Air Doctor. It's amazing, but it's just really expensive.
Right.
So this is another option, different technology that's a little bit more affordable. And, you know, my clients love when I can offer them an option that does the same thing, but is a little bit more affordable.
We'll have to put some of your product recommendations in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So.
And you can follow me too.
Yeah.
I talk about this I have these kind of conversations with no one but myself and my dogs all the time.
It's amazing. Well, I actually have one last question for you.
Yeah.
So if you were to drink a martini in a bikini,
Yes.
Where would you be and what would you be drinking?
So if I were going to drink a martini bikini, I most likely would be on the beach kind of between Venice and Santa Monica on a regular basis, but I prefer to be in Greece.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Girl after my own heart.
Yeah. And I mean, I like it dirty with a stuffed blue cheese olive, but gin.
Whoa. But
Yeah.
Said it again.
Whoa.
You are speaking my language. I'm a vodka martini girl, but yeah.
If you happen to be playing a drinking game, you should drink every time you say whoa.
That's a great idea. Or you
So
can
when
sip on
Veronica
your
says
green
whoa,
smoothie.
Yeah. Or
I
sip
love
on your
it.
green smoothie.
I love it. Yeah. We'll start that. That'll
Yeah.
be a new trend on the show. But I would love for you to share how people can be friends, how they can connect, how they can just see all the amazing things that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to connect with me is just go through Instagram. Abundantly Be is the name of my practice. Whether you are looking for a facial, a human design guidance session, I do virtual Reiki as well as in-person Reiki. And then I also play sound baths at private events, weddings, birth showers. So that's something new if you guys haven't heard. It's trending
Showering
right
all
now.
the births.
Showering all the births.
They should do that. Like have like a little party in the hospital room. That could be fun.
Why not?
Yeah, a little sound bath in there. I feel like it'd be really soothing.
I feel like it would be great.
It'd be healing for sure. There's a lot going on in there.
I mean,
so.
wouldn't you want a baby to be born as a sound bath is happening?
I'm doing that. That is now something that I will be doing.
I will say, I bet you if I were to just play like the sacral bowl again and again and again, that could induce birth if someone's really ready to pop.
You'll have to test it out.
We'll test it out and find out. Coming soon. But yeah, head to Instagram. My handle is Abundantly Be. We'll put that in the show notes as well. That's where you can find all the information. And I will say, even if you're in LA and you can't come to see me, I do virtual skin consultations. So we can get together with a cleansed face over Zoom and we can have like a 30-minute conversation on what's happening. And I can customize and curate something for you, even if it's not in your wheelhouse to go and get a facial right now.
Oh my gosh, you offer so many amazing resources, and I feel like people are going to be jumping to work with you because you really are just naturally a healer, and your energy is just amazing. And I know we like literally met last week, but I feel like we are like this.
I mean, we've already gone for pizza and wine. I mean, it's pretty much
It's official.
It's official. We're obsessed with each other.
Yes.
That's all there is to it.
So cute. I love it.
Well, and since you should ideally have a facial once a month, I guess we're just going to have to make it happen.
We're going to have to make it work. Yeah. I'm going to have to be bi-coastal.
If you can't, by the way, at least once a quarter is a great way to start.
Yeah.
Going back to like younger people. Because I mean, so much of is about what you're doing at home.
Right.
But if you can just come in, think about as the seasons change and we can really help what's working, what we need to change and edit, that can be really supportive until you can get into that routine.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much for
Oh my
coming
gosh,
on,
you're
Becca.
so
This was
welcome.
amazing. And thank you for the beautiful smoothie. I feel so energized and good. And I feel like I got all my nutrients today.
You definitely did. And it was so skin and gut supportive, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Obsessed. Well, if you guys like this episode, please feel free to like, rate, and subscribe to Martinis and Bikinis on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I will love you forever. And I'll see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.